What's going on, everybody? Today we're talking about the 5 worst things about the Finger Lakes. Ready?
Let's go. What's going on, guys? Welcome to the channel. Welcome back to the channel. My name's Anthony. This is my partner Avery, and we are American Home Team. Guys, if you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button and that little notification bell so you're notified every single time that we release a new video.
100%, guys, and we are licensed realtors here in the state of New York. So that means as much as we love making these videos for you, we would love even more to help you make a smooth move to the Finger Lakes region of upstate New York. So reach out to that phone number, that email address, shoot us a text, a DM on social media, an email, whatever it is. We would love to chat with you guys and help you make a smooth move to the Finger Lakes.
Absolutely. Guys, today we have a fun one. We're going over the top 5 worst things about living in the Finger Lakes. Are you ready to get into it?
Let's go.
Let's go. Guys, number 1. This is kind of a funny one, but we experienced it a lot when we were in the Marine Corps. Telling people that we're from New York, everybody's mind goes to, oh, you're from New York City.
Yeah.
The Finger Lakes is not New York City. Where we live is about 5.5 hours from Manhattan.
Yeah.
So we're pretty far from the city.
Yeah, and you know, we experience this a lot with real estate referrals as well. We have a network of agents all across the US, and a lot of times when they're sending buyers or sellers out our way, they'll be in Yonkers, or they'll be in Staten Island, or Manhattan, or Brooklyn,
Poughkeepsie,
and,
or Middletown, or
pretty close to the city. And once again, that's 5 hours from us, and I don't want to live there for a second. I like the Finger Lakes region. The Finger Lakes is a lot more down home than the city. It's a lot slower of a lifestyle.
Yep.
That's kind of people we are. That's kind of lifestyle that we want. And the city's not that. So we just think it's funny that everyone refers to us as New York City.
Absolutely. And that being said, though, just because we don't personally go there or work there does not mean we don't want to help you find somebody down there that can help you make smooth move to that area. We have connections literally everywhere. So you can still reach out to us, let us know, hey, we're not moving to the Finger Lakes, but we want to go to New York City or the surrounding area.
Yep.
And we'll love to help you out there too.
Yep. All right, and number 2 on the list is the unpredictable weather patterns that we have here in New York as a whole, but especially the Finger Lakes with a lot of the lake effect rain and snow that we have.
Guys, most of our meteorologists here, nothing against them, they have a great job, they're very good at what they do. Most of the time they're wrong. And they're wrong because, for example, Buffalo this year is on a record-setting pace for getting snow.
Yeah.
Rochester and the Finger Lakes, on the other hand, is nowhere close to that.
Yeah.
We're actually probably on the record-setting side of the opposite, right? Of no snow.
Yeah.
So it's you know, you got 2 lakes up toward Buffalo. You got Lake Ontario and Lake Erie. They're 2 major lakes, and 2 Great Lakes rather. And you get massive lake effect weather coming off of it. The Rochester area gets a little bit less, but they still get hit pretty hard. And Finger Lakes, not as close.
And so to clear that up a little bit, we get these bands of weather that go across from Buffalo all the way across Lake Ontario, and it affects Rochester, and sometimes down here in the Finger Lakes, we get a little stretch of that snow as well, or that rain, or whatever the weather pattern is. And so a lot of times they'll call for us to get a blizzard, and we get like 30 minutes of a blizzard, 30 minutes of a whiteout, and that's about it.
Maybe not even that.
Yeah, maybe not even that. But just to reference the unpredictability as well, you know, it's January 1st today. Yesterday it was, what, 50 degrees?
Almost 60.
Day before that was 62 degrees. Next week, meteorologists are calling for 60s as well. So that's the first week in January. So the weather here is unpredictable. You get a lot of warm, cold, which is why a lot of New Yorkers hate the weather, because you get these warm days and you're like, oh, I can get used to this. And then it snows again, and the winter just stretches on into the spring, into April, and New Yorkers get pissed off.
Yep. It's they call that the fool's spring.
Yep.
Because the spring never actually
It never actually comes.
All right, guys, moving on to number 3 on the list of top 5 worst things about living in the Finger Lakes, and it is kind of a controversial one. One we don't necessarily love to talk about, but it's the reality of it, and it happens everywhere, not just here, but it's the concept of people with old money and kind of prissiness and stuck in their ways.
Yeah, and so here in the Finger Lakes, we do have a lot of old money. And a lot of those people that have old money, they're stuck in their ways, and they'll be very judgmental to anybody that is outside of what they see as the norm. And so a lot of the progression that has happened here in the Finger Lakes, they're judging. They're making snarky comments at. A lot of them, have beautiful houses and boats and boat houses and all of that stuff, right? But they'll look down on you if you don't have that kind of stuff. So with that said, it's very few and far between, but you do get people like that, and you'll notice it too, because we're such a close community around here. You'll notice the people that stand out with their prissiness and with their old money. There's nothing against the money side of it. It's just with the progression that the Finger Lakes has had over the last couple of years, there are some people that are not so accepting to that.
It's simply the attitudes behind some of these people, right? And a majority of everybody in the Finger Lakes are great people.
Yeah.
They're amazing humans, but you do get the exception to the rule always.
And the reason we bring it up is because it is such a small community, it amplifies that issue. Whereas if you're in New York City, for example, you don't notice those people nearly as much because there's 8 million people in the city.
Yep.
Or Tampa or wherever. You don't notice them because there's so many people. But we're a close-knit community, and so you will see those people a lot more often than some other places in the country.
And it's such a contrast as well from what the normal type of person is.
Yep.
It's such a contrast, you'll notice it.
Yep. All right, so moving on to number 4 is the inability to renovate or update any of the historical properties here in the Finger Lakes. We have a lot of history in the towns, and we have some houses from the 1800s and early 1900s, a lot of them, and it makes it very difficult to renovate or update or remodel those homes when you buy them.
Absolutely, and the reason being is because in order to make any of these renovations, you have to go through the town and the historic district, or the historic society, right? So there's a house that I'm thinking of specifically in the city of Canandaigua, big yellow house. The paint is chipping off the house, and it's a big brick house.
Yeah.
And it's got these,
Very stately.
Yep, these wooden railings around it. The paint is falling off the railing, the wood is rotting out and everything. But it's an amazing house, and they've been trying to make renovations to this house just to boost the curb appeal and the aesthetics of the house, if you will.
And to maintain the longevity of the house.
And it's been taking years upon years just to get anything approved. And the reason for that is the Historical Society requires that you have the same color paint, a lot of the same materials being used. And when you're talking about a house from the 1800s, a lot of the time those materials aren't around anymore. That paint color is not gonna match.
Yep.
Right? So it's almost impossible to match it color for color, and it's really hard to make those renovations.
Yeah, and it can be very expensive because you have to ship a lot of those materials from either overseas or across the country or whatever. A lot of the builders nowadays won't, or even construction companies nowadays, won't go and match those colors or match those products. So they want to preserve the history behind that property. So it makes it very hard to renovate it.
Which, in my opinion, part of it is great because you want to preserve the historical nature of the town and of the city. The other part is some of these properties, inevitably, because of time and wear and tear, a lot of the properties are going to start looking pretty crummy.
Like shit.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we've made it to the end, to number 5 of the 5 worst things about the Finger Lakes. And number 5 is the lack of inventory here in the real estate market.
Yeah, and this affects us in our profession in helping you guys find houses, and it affects you, of course, in finding houses. That's because the Finger Lakes as a whole averages right around less than 3 months of inventory.
As of right now.
As of right now. That means that if there were no new houses to come on the market, it would take roughly less than 3 months for all the existing inventory to run out, to be bought. And so what that does is, you as a buyer, it's gonna basically make you look longer for the house that you're looking for, you know?
Yeah, and so also what it does is it's gonna increase prices because the competition is higher, right? So it's a supply and demand thing. If you're moving from another state where the average sales price is higher, maybe you're selling a house for 600 grand in, I don't know, Missouri or something, and you get a bunch of cash to move here to the Finger Lakes, that might be a good thing because you could buy a home in cash. And your offer is gonna stand out over some of these conventional mortgages or whatever. But if you're coming from a similar market, or even if you're in Syracuse and you're trying to move here to the Finger Lakes, it's gonna make it difficult because you're not gonna have a ton of cash, or maybe you just don't have a ton of cash or equity, or maybe you're trying to rent, right?
Yeah. And that's when it gets really hard, is when you don't have a lot of cash in your pocket. And you know, we work with buyers every day who, you know, they can pay their closing costs, but maybe their down payment's gonna be a 3.5% for their conventional loan, or a 5%, right? And their earnest money deposit is, you know, which is basically your skin in the game,
security deposit.
Is gonna be $5,000 as well, which that is sufficient. But a lot of sellers know that they can get more skin in the game for that. And so it just makes your offer look a little bit lack-worthy.
Yeah. And that's simply because of the competition.
Yep.
So with lower inventory, higher the competition, the higher the prices are gonna go, the harder it is to buy a house. However, it makes it a little bit better to sell a house.
Yep.
Over the last couple of weeks, there's been like an average of like 10 to 20 houses that hit the market every single day, which is nothing.
Yeah.
That's nothing at all.
I was seeing from some of our partners out in Denver, Colorado, I think last week there was over 650 homes that went on the market.
Yeah.
Whereas out in this area, you might get lucky to hit 100 in the whole Finger Lakes region.
Yeah.
So it's very few and far between out here, and people like to hold on to their house. They're locked into great rates out here most of the time.
Yep.
And people just love living in the Finger Lakes. So.
And so while things are kind of opening up to buyers and becoming a little bit of a better market for buyers, here in the Finger Lakes, it's still very much a seller's market. Mm-hmm. You know, you hear realtors from across the country saying, oh, it's a great time to buy, it's a great time to buy. Well, here in the Finger Lakes, it's becoming a better time to buy, but it's not a great time to buy necessarily because sellers still have a lot of leverage because they're one of few houses on the market.
Yep.
Not to say that you can't get it done, because we have clients under contract right now that, you know, they are getting their offers accepted and things are going good.
And some of them don't even have the best financials, right? So we're talking about if you have a lot of cash. Some of them don't have a ton of cash.
Yep.
There are ways to get it done. But if you are one of the ones who are fortunate enough to have a bunch of cash, or enough cash rather, then it might be pretty easy for you.
Yep. All right, guys, so that was the top 5 worst things about the Finger Lakes. Guys, like we said earlier, we are licensed realtors here in the state of New York. So we love making these videos, but we love even more to help you guys make a smooth move to the Finger Lakes. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so that you're notified every single Tuesday and Thursday that we drop a new video about all things Finger Lakes.
As well as that number and email that's popping up on the bottom of your screen. Be sure to reach out to those methods. We'd love to help you out here.
See you guys.
Peace.